Welcome back to the Champions Corner. I'm Kate Elizabeth, Taekwondo mindset coach, and I'm recording this episode right now for a very specific reason. If you're heading to the Oz Open and President's Cup next month, then this episode is for you. So you're walking into competition, you've been training for months. Oz Open, President's Cup is just next month. Your technique is solid. Your conditioning you've been working on, so you're the fittest and strongest you've ever been. And then something flips the moment that you step into that venue. Your heart rate climbs, your palms begin to sweat. You are watching every other competitor, and suddenly you are doubting everything that you know about yourself. But by the time you step onto the mat, you've already lost half of your game plan. You haven't even thrown your first kick and you're mentally done. If you watch any amazing tennis player, you'll see the moment where that pressure starts eating at them. Think Kyrgios, perfect example. You see it when he starts to unfold. They're not losing their technique. He is still one of the greatest players Australia has ever produced. He's losing his mindset. When you challenge him, that's where things change. And here's what most people get wrong. They think that the problem is the nerves, but it's actually not. They think that the problem is not that they don't train hard enough, because they do. They think the problem is lack of preparation. But that is not it at all. The real problem is your identity. Let me explain what I mean. When you step into that competition venue, you're not just executing your technique. You're showing up as someone. You're showing up as a competitor. And if you haven't actually built that identity before, like way before you get to competition, everything else falls apart. See, there's a massive difference between being someone who trains hard and is great at the club to being someone who is a professional athlete. Training hard is something you do, but being a professional athlete is something that you are. And most athletes confuse those two things completely. You can train for 12 months or more. You can have the best technique in your club or even in your state, possibly even nationally. You can have the conditioning of a freaking machine. But if you haven't built that identity of a true professional competitor, if you don't actually believe that you belong out there, that you deserve that gold medal when it matters most, you will fall apart before the first round even goes. Here's what happens. Let me just put it out there. You walk in and you immediately start scanning the room and you're looking for the evidence. Are you good enough? Do you belong in this room? And if your identity is not solid, your brain will find the evidence that you don't belong there. You will see all of the athletes that are stronger than you. You will see the competitors that are faster and quicker. You will see everyone that has beaten you before. And suddenly, you are not a competitor anymore. You are just an imposter waiting to be exposed. That is where your identity collapses. And it will happen before the match even starts. Kyrgios again, think of him. When his identity of a fierce competitor is solid, he is absolutely unstoppable. But when the doubt creeps in and stuff starts happening out on the court like it does, his identity, it starts to waver and you will see him melt the fuck down. Same skills, just different identity. Completely different outcomes. So how do you build a competitor identity before you need it? That's where this gets practical. It's really not that hard, guys. The first thing you need to understand is that identity isn't built in that moment. It's built in the small decisions you make every single day. It's built in how you show up at training, how you handle the failures, the little losses. It's built in how you talk to yourself. When nobody's watching, it's also built in how you talk to others. If you're at training and you're just going through the motions, you're building the identity of someone that just goes through the motions. If you're training like you are preparing for a war and you're an absolute beast, you're building the identity of a warrior. Your daily choices are literally constructing who you are, warrior, going through the motions. The second thing is this: your identity needs to be based on things that you can control, not the outcomes. And this is such a crucial point. If your identity is built on winning, it's going to crumble. The moment you're facing someone who looks like they might beat you, that identity cracks. But if your identity is built on being someone who shows up fully, expressively, openly, someone who competes with everything that they've got, someone who is willing to stay present under pressure, that identity will not crack, because those things you actually can control. And this is where I come in as your mindset coach. It is my job not to just pump you up. My job as a mindset coach isn't just to give you fancy mantras, but it is to help you actually construct a competitor identity that is totally bulletproof. And we do this through the inner corner. It's something called the identity architecture. And I'll explain how it works because it's pretty bloody easy, really, guys. First, we get really clear on who you actually want to be as a competitor. Not who your parents want you to be, not who your coach wants to be, not the person that won the medal for the last time. Who is it that you actually want to be on competition day? What does that competitor look like? How do they show up? What does that person do every day? What do they believe about themselves? Second, we identify the gaps. Where are you right now versus where you need to be? And this is really, really important because the gaps actually aren't about your skill or your talent. They're about your beliefs. They're about the stories that you're telling yourself time and time again and what you're making them mean. Thirdly, we build your micro practices, the small daily things that reinforce that competitor identity. These aren't big dramatic changes in your life, but they are just the tiny decisions that compound time and time again. How you enter the training space with dominance, head up, shoulders back. How you speak to yourself. How do you handle a loss in sparring? How do you recover, and how quickly do you recover from a mistake or a lost point? Every single one of these is an identity building moment. Fourth, we stress test the shit out of this. We create scenarios that simulate competition pressure, and we practice staying in your identity when everything's telling you to doubt yourself, because that's what happens at a real competition. Shit is happening really quickly and everything's telling you to doubt. And if you've only built the identity amongst the calm training environment, it's not going to hold up. Here's the thing that most people don't realize. Your coach is training your body. And that is so valuable, guys. That's necessary. But your coach can't actually train your identity. Your coach, love them, but they can't rewire the beliefs that are sabotaging you before you even step on the mat. That is a different skill entirely. That is mindset coaching. That is me. And here's why it matters. I have worked with athletes who have everything. The perfect technique, the elite conditioning, access to everything they could possibly think of, years of experience, and they still choke when it matters the most because their identity didn't match their ability. And I worked with athletes who maybe aren't the most technically gifted, but They have such a solid sense of who they are as a competitor that they outperform every other athlete who are way technically superior because identity wins every single time. So when you're in the warm-up zone pre-comp and your heart is racing and your palms are sweating, I keep wanting to go into like that Eminem song. Like, I'm not even going to do that to you guys, but you know what I'm saying. But what's actually happening there is your body's trying to protect you. Your nervous system's keeping you safe. Well, it's trying to. Your body is trying to protect you. Your nervous system is actually just trying to keep you safe. And if your identity isn't strong enough to override that, you're done. Call it quits for the day. You've already mentally gone before the comp even starts. But if your identity is solid AF, if you actually believe you belong out there, if you've built yourself into someone who thrives under pressure, if you know who you are and what you're capable of, that nervousness, it will become your fuel. That's just your body getting ready to do what you've trained it to do. And this is exactly what the inner corner is and what it is designed to do. It's not about training more. It's about becoming more. It's about constructing an identity so solid that no amount of pre-comp pressure can shake it. Here's a hard truth. You don't lose your mindset before the first match because you haven't trained hard enough. You lose your mindset because you haven't actually become that true competitor yet. You're still just someone who trains. You're not someone who actually competes. You have not become that warrior yet. And that's what we fix in the inner corner. The inner corner is now open. Come on in and let's build you into an athlete you actually want to be. Maybe it's that warrior. Inside the inner corner, we are creating champions. Maybe you're chasing OzTKD recognition. Maybe you're chasing that gold medal that just keeps alluring you. Make sure you're watching the next episode of the Champions Corner podcast. Let's start building stronger villages together because remember, guys, teamwork makes their dreams work. I am here building the corner that creates the champions.